It began like a whisper at the edge of my dreams. A sound that didn't belong. The kind of faint tapping that makes you turn your head in sleep, unsure whether it came from the real world or the mind's dark corners. That night, the air felt heavier than usual, thick enough that every breath scraped my throat. I didn't remember falling asleep, but suddenly, I was standing in my room, or at least something that looked like my room. Everything was hazy, as if a thin film of smoke hung in the air. The clock on the wall was frozen at 3:17 a.m. The curtains didn't move, though I could hear the wind. Then I saw it. In the farthest corner, beside my old study table, a small wooden doll stood upright about the height of my forearm. It was carved crudely, its surface rough, one eye slightly larger than the other. Its painted mouth curved into a cracked, permanent grin. The thing looked handmade, ancient, as though it had been buried for years and dug up again. At first, I thought it was a dream artifact, one of those strange symbols your mind throws at you for no reason. But then, the doll moved. It didn't fall or tilt, it walked. With slow, jerking motions, the little wooden figure began to pace across the floor. The sound it made, tock, 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 echoed in the stillness. I froze where I stood. The air smelled faintly of damp wood and something metallic, almost like dried blood. My skin broke into goosebumps. The doll turned its head toward me. That cracked smile seemed to widen, stretching beyond what the paint allowed. It took another step forward, and another. Then, impossibly, it began to climb the air, step by step. The wooden doll walked upward, as if invisible stairs spiraled through my room. It reached the ceiling, its head turning upside down to look at me, hanging there, feet clinging to the roof, eyes glinting with something alive. I wanted to scream, but the sound wouldn't come. My throat felt glued shut. The doll began to circle the room along the upper walls, skittering like a spider, leaving faint scratches wherever its wooden feet touched. The noise grew unbearable, tock 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 echoing inside my skull. Suddenly, the light bulb flickered. For an instant, the doll vanished. Darkness swallowed everything. When the light blinked back on, it was right beside my bed. I could see every line carved into its body, the little splinters along its arms, the faint red stains near its wooden fingers. It was staring straight at me. Then its head tilted, slowly, with a faint creak. Left, right, left again. Each motion matched the rhythm of my racing heartbeat. And then, in a voice that didn't belong to anything made of wood, it whispered, "You can see me now." I woke up gasping. My bedsheet was tangled around my legs. The clock read 3:17 a.m. again. I sat up, sweat dripping down my back, my chest heaving, telling myself it was just a nightmare. But as I looked toward the corner of my room, where the study table stood, I saw faint footprints, small, wooden, dusty, leading toward my bed. Outside, the wind was silent. Only one sound filled the room. Tock, tock, tock. The morning came, but the terror did not fade. It clung to me like a second skin. Sunlight spilled across the floor, yet it felt wrong. Colorless, almost sickly. I hadn't slept since that whisper in the dark. My neck ached, and my throat felt dry, as if something had been pressing down on it all night. When I looked in the mirror, I froze. There was a faint red mark just below my jaw, shaped like small wooden fingers. I laughed nervously at first. Maybe I scratched myself in my sleep, I told myself. Maybe my imagination was running wild. But the laughter died the moment I noticed the footprints. They hadn't disappeared. Those tiny wooden marks were still there, scattered from my study table to the edge of my bed. I tried to clean them. I really did. I took a cloth, wiped the floor again and again until my hands hurt. But when I stepped back, the prints were still there, darker this time. That's when I began to hear it again. Tock, tock, tock. It was faint, like the echo of a memory, but it came from the walls, not the floor. The sound followed me through the apartment, to the kitchen, the bathroom, the hallway. I couldn't find the source. Every time I turned around, the sound stopped. Every time I looked away, it started again. I went to work that day pretending nothing had happened. I told myself the nightmare was over. The office was crowded, loud, busy, but even there, I felt its eyes on me. At lunchtime, when everyone else had gone to the cafeteria, I sat alone at my desk. The computer monitor flickered once, Just once, and for half a second, I saw it reflected on the black screen. That same wooden doll, standing right behind me. I spun around, nothing, but the air smelled of wet wood. I left early that day. The sun was still bright when I stepped outside, but somehow the world felt dimmer. People moved like shadows. I kept thinking I saw the doll everywhere. In a store window, on a bus seat, near a lamppost. Each time I blinked, it was gone. By the time I reached home, I was trembling. I turned every light on, every single one, even in the bathroom and the closet. The whole apartment glowed white, sterile, yet somehow darker than before. I sat on the edge of my bed, head in my hands. My heart wouldn't stop racing. "It's not real," I whispered. "It can't be real." But then something tapped at my bedroom door. 3 knocks. Slow, deliberate. Tock, tock, tock. I froze. My mind screamed not to open it, but my hand moved on its own, reaching for the handle. I turned it, the door creaked open, and there was nothing there. No one. Just the faint scent of varnish. And then I saw it. Up above on the ceiling, the doll was walking again, upside down, its small wooden limbs scraping against the plaster. Tiny flakes of white dust fell like snow onto my hair. Its eyes were fixed on me, gleaming in the artificial light. I stumbled backward, tripping over the carpet, knocking over a lamp. The bulb shattered and the room plunged into darkness again. When I turned toward the wall, I saw movement. Something small sliding across the surface, like a shadow with weight. The doll's voice crept through the dark, soft, and splintered. "You shouldn't have tried to forget me." The lights flickered back for a second, and I saw it right in front of me, inches from my face. The grin was wider this time. There was blood, faint, wet, glistening around its tiny mouth. I screamed, shoved it away, but it didn't fall. It clung to the wall like it was alive, head turning with a slow, cracking sound. Then it whispered again, this time almost gently. "You see me in the dark. You'll see me in the light too." I ran. I didn't even realize I was outside until I felt the cold air hit my skin. People on the street stared at me, disheveled, shaking, barefoot. I didn't care. I kept walking until I reached the main road. That night, I couldn't go home. I sat on a park bench until sunrise, staring at the empty sky. And yet, every time I blinked, I swore I saw that little wooden silhouette walking along the fence line, just behind the fog. 3 nights passed before I dared to go home again. The city looked ordinary, cars rushing, people crossing streets, lights flashing, yet everything felt unreal, like I was moving inside someone else's dream. Sleep had become impossible. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard that familiar talk, 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 echoing through my skull, as if the sound had lodged itself inside me. I tried walking instead of taking a cab, but exhaustion eventually forced me to give in. It was almost midnight when I raised my hand at a passing taxi. The vehicle slowed to a stop. The driver leaned out, an older man with sharp cheekbones, pale eyes that reflected the streetlights like mirrors. His smile was polite but strange, too still, as though it had been fixed there for too long. "Where to?" he asked. I gave him my address, climbed inside, and shut the door. The seat was cold. I don't mean cool cold, as if someone had just left it after sitting in snow. The smell hit me next, damp wood and engine oil. As the taxi began to move, I noticed the rearview mirror tilted toward me. The driver's eyes met mine again, only for a moment, and my stomach tightened. "You look tired," he said softly. "Long days, bad dreams." My breath caught in my throat. "How did you?" He chuckled. "You talk in your sleep, maybe." "I haven't been sleeping." He didn't reply immediately. Then, still watching the road, he said, "You see her, don't you?" Something in my chest froze. "Who?" "The little one. The doll." The car felt smaller suddenly, as if the air had thickened. I stared at the back of his head, unable to speak. He continued, voice calm, almost conversational. "She likes to follow people who forget her. Lonely things hate being forgotten." I swallowed hard. My tongue felt heavy. "What are you talking about?" The driver laughed, a dry, rattling sound. "I bought one once," he said, "for my daughter. She wanted a friend to play with. But after the accident," his voice trailed off, "she doesn't play anymore." I looked at his reflection in the rearview mirror, but his eyes weren't looking at the road anymore. They were staring directly into mine. Then he reached into the glove compartment and pulled something out. A wooden doll, exactly the same as the one I'd seen in my room. Same size, same cracked smile, one eye larger than the other. Only this one was stained dark, as if soaked in something long ago. "Beautiful, isn't she?" he said. My hands started trembling. I pressed my back against the seat, shaking my head. "Stop the car," I whispered. He didn't. Instead, he began to hum a slow, tuneless melody that didn't sound human. I could hear his breath changing, rasping, air moving through broken pipes. The hum grew deeper, turning into a kind of low growl. Outside, the streetlights began to flicker as we passed. My reflection in the window looked strange, distorted, as though something sat beside me, something small and crooked. "Stop the car," I shouted this time. The driver turned his head all the way around. His neck twisted too far, the bones cracking, until his face was fully facing me while his hand still gripped the wheel. His smile was gone now. His mouth hung open, the jaw trembling. "I thought you died," I whispered. "I did," he said. His voice sounded distant, layered like two people speaking at once. "You were there, remember?" I couldn't move. I couldn't even scream. My heart was pounding so violently it hurt. "2 months ago," he continued, "you took my taxi. You sat right where you are now. Then the truck came. You lived. I didn't." The doll in his lap began to twitch. Its wooden fingers moved slightly, tapping against the dashboard. Tock, tock, tock. The car swerved suddenly, tires screeching, and I grabbed the seat in terror. The city around us blurred, lights stretching into endless streaks. It felt like the taxi wasn't driving on the road anymore, it was floating, moving through a space that had no sound, no air. Then the driver leaned closer, whispering, "She remembers you. She never forgets." His face began to rot before my eyes, skin darkening, splitting open, revealing splinters of wood beneath. I realized, in a flash of sickening horror, that he wasn't human anymore. His hands, the ones gripping the wheel, were wooden too. The doll crawled onto the dashboard, its head tilting toward me, that same smile spreading wider. I screamed. I don't know if it was out loud or only inside my head, but everything shattered: glass, sound, time, and then silence. When I opened my eyes, I was lying on the ground outside my house. The taxi was gone. No broken glass, no tire marks, nothing. Just the faint smell of varnish lingering in the cold night air. I touched my neck. The red marks were deeper now. From somewhere nearby, soft but unmistakable, came that sound again. Tock, tock, tock. I don't remember how long I lay there on the ground. The world around me was still, silent, as if the night itself was holding its breath. My body felt numb. My mind kept replaying the driver's face, that impossible twisting neck, that voice layered with death. Eventually, I forced myself to move. My apartment lights were off, though I was sure I'd left them on. The key shook in my hand as I unlocked the door. Inside, everything was untouched, except for one thing. There were tiny footprints on the floor again, moving from the window to the middle of the room. And in the center of those footprints lay a small wooden splinter, stained dark red. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the couch until the first light of dawn crept across the floor. My mind kept circling one impossible thought: if that taxi driver truly died 2 months ago, then who was driving the car tonight? The next morning, I decided to find out. The old address came back to me suddenly, uninvited. The one the driver had mentioned months before, during a casual conversation I hadn't thought twice about. I didn't even know why I remembered it, but my body moved on instinct, as though something was guiding me. The farther I drove, the emptier the streets became. The houses grew older, their paint peeling, their windows sealed with dust. When I finally reached the address, it was almost noon, yet the sky looked strangely gray, drained of color. The house stood alone at the end of a narrow lane. The walls were cracked, ivy crawling up like veins. Curtains hung torn inside the windows, barely moving in the stale air. For a long time, I just stood there. Part of me hoped the house was abandoned, but then, from inside, I heard something. A soft humming, a child's lullaby. My hands trembled as I knocked on the door. It creaked open slowly, as though it had been waiting for me. Inside, the smell hit me first. Old wood, dust, and faint rot. The floorboards groaned with every step. The humming grew clearer, coming from the back room. "Hello?" I called out. My voice sounded wrong in the stillness. "Anyone there?" The humming stopped. Then, a frail voice answered. "Who is it?" I stepped into the dim living room. An old woman sat in a wooden chair by the window, wrapped in a tattered shawl. Her eyes were sunken but alert. "Are you his mother?" I asked carefully. Her lips trembled. "You knew my son?" I nodded. "I took his taxi the night he died." She closed her eyes for a long moment, as if trying to remember something too heavy to lift. "He was a good man," she whispered, "always bringing home small things for his little girl. Toys, trinkets, a doll." My stomach turned cold. "A wooden doll?" The woman looked at me sharply. "Yes. The day he died, he had just bought it. Said it would keep her company when he worked nights. But after the accident," her voice broke. "She hasn't spoken a word since." The humming began again, soft, from down the hallway. I followed the sound to a half-open door. The room inside was dim, lit only by a single candle. A little girl sat on the floor, facing the wall, holding something in her hands. It was the doll. My throat tightened. It looked exactly the same. The uneven eyes, the cracked grin, the faint stains near its wooden fingers. The girl turned slowly. Her eyes were blank, distant, like she was half awake in some other world. "She says you left her," the child murmured. My breath stopped. "What?" The girl tilted her head. "She says she found you again. She says she likes you better than me." Something inside me snapped. I stumbled backward, almost falling. The doll's head twisted toward me with a slow, splintering creak. Tock, tock, tock. The sound came not from the floor but from the doll's mouth. Its jaw moved slightly, as if trying to form words. "Stop," I whispered. "Stop it." The girl just smiled faintly. "She wants to come home with you." Suddenly, the candle blew out. Darkness swallowed the room. The air turned cold, unnaturally cold. I could hear the old woman shouting from the living room, her voice echoing through the house. But I couldn't move. My legs wouldn't respond. Then, in the pitch black, I felt something touch my ankle. It was small, hard, and cold. "Wooden!" I screamed, kicking away and bolting out of the room. The old woman stood in the hallway, clutching her chest, tears streaming down her face. "She won't stop," she whispered. "She wants someone new." I didn't wait to hear more. I ran out the door, down the road, into the daylight. The air outside felt thick and sharp, like I'd escaped from underwater. But as I reached my car, I froze. In the passenger seat, sitting upright, was the wooden doll, head tilted, grin wide, one tiny hand resting against the window. Its wooden fingers left a faint, bloody smear across the glass. And from somewhere inside the car, the radio crackled to life. No music, no voice, just that sound. Tock, 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 tock. I didn't remember driving home. I only remembered the sound, that endless tock, 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 filling the car like a heartbeat that wasn't mine. When I reached my building, I stumbled out, leaving the door open, the doll still sitting upright on the passenger seat. But when I turned back to look, it was gone. Only a faint smear of blood on the seat remained, shaped like 5 tiny fingers. That night, the silence in my apartment was unbearable. The lights flickered, the air felt wrong, and no matter how tightly I locked the doors, I couldn't shake the feeling that something small was crawling through the shadows watching. For days, I tried to convince myself to forget it. I threw away the splinter I had found, deleted the driver's number, and even prayed once, though I hadn't done that in years. But no matter what I did, the dreams came back. Always the same. The little girl's voice whispering, "She likes you better," followed by the tock, tock, tock of tiny feet circling my bed. Then one morning, I woke to find muddy footprints on my pillow. That was the moment I gave up pretending it wasn't real. I decided to go back to the driver's house. Maybe if I helped them, his mother, his daughter, whatever this thing was, would stop following me. Maybe it wanted peace, or pity, or forgiveness. I didn't care. I just wanted it gone. When I reached the old lane again, The house looked even more decayed. The air around it felt heavier, as if time itself had stopped at the moment of the accident. The old woman opened the door before I could knock. She didn't look surprised to see me. "You came back," she said softly. "It's good." She's been waiting. The little girl sat on the floor behind her, silent as before. Her eyes followed me, empty, but knowing. The doll lay on the table, this time motionless, its head turned slightly toward me, that same cracked grin painted to why. "I just want to help," I said. My voice shook. "Anything you need. Money. Food." "She doesn't want money," the old woman interrupted. Her voice had gone flat. "She wants attention. You gave it to her." I stared at her. "What do you mean?" The candlelight trembled. The girl began to hum again, the same low, broken lullaby. "She was carved from grief," the old woman said, eyes fixed on the doll. "My son made her after his wife died. He said she would keep our child company. But sorrow has teeth, you know. When you carve something with it, it doesn't stay wood for long." My mouth went dry. "You mean?" The old woman nodded. "She remembers everyone who touches her. She clings to them, feeds on their loneliness. You brought her home once, didn't you?" Before I could answer, the doll moved. A single twitch, a tiny talk, as its wooden head turned to face me completely. Then another, and another. The air grew colder. My breath came out in clouds. The candle flame stretched thin, then snapped out. Darkness. I could still see her, though, faintly glowing now, her wooden skin pulsing like something alive beneath the surface. "She missed you," the little girl whispered. Then, before I could react, the doll leapt. It landed on my chest with impossible weight, its wooden fingers clutching my throat. I fell backward, slamming into the wall. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. Her hands were so strong. The old woman shouted something, but her voice was distant, fading. My vision blurred. I clawed at the doll's arms, they felt like cold iron. Its painted grin hovered inches from my face. And then, in a voice I'd heard in every dream, it whispered, "You stopped helping me." I tried to pull it off, but it only tightened its grip. My lungs burned, black spots blooming in my eyes. The last thing I saw before darkness took me was the little girl smiling. Not sadly this time, but almost proud. Then everything went black. When I woke, I was in my own bed. Morning sunlight poured through the window. My throat throbbed with pain. I touched it and felt the bruises deep, finger-shaped, exactly where the doll had held me. They said they found me unconscious outside my building, lying near the gate. No one saw who brought me there. I tried to tell myself it was just another hallucination, that I'd lost control of my mind, but when I turned my head toward the dresser, my heart nearly stopped. Because sitting there, perfectly still, was the wooden doll. Same crooked smile, same uneven eyes. Only now, there was a small crack on her face, one that hadn't been there before, shaped exactly like my own smile. And then, just as I began to shake, she whispered one last time, almost lovingly, "You won't leave me again." The clock on the wall flicked from 3:16 to 3:17. Tock, tock, tock. It has been 7 days since the doll returned. 7 endless nights of whispers, footsteps, and the slow rotting of my sanity. I tried burning her. I poured gasoline over her wooden body, struck a match, and watched the flames rise. For a moment, I thought I was free. But in the morning, when I opened my eyes, she was sitting again on the same chair beside my bed. Unburned, her paint cleaner than before, her wooden hands resting on her lap like a child waiting patiently. Only this time, she was smiling wider. I stopped sleeping after that. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard it talk, 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 from the floor, from the ceiling, from inside the walls. It wasn't just footsteps anymore. It was breathing, slow, wet, heavy, like something wooden that shouldn't be alive, trying to remember how lungs work. Sometimes, I'd wake up and find her closer. One night, she was by the door. The next night, beside the bed. By the third night, she was sitting on my chest, her small wooden fingers resting just above my heartbeat. That's when I realized something horrifying. The doll wasn't haunting me. She was becoming me. Every day, a new splinter appeared on my hands. My skin felt stiff, dry, cracking like old wood. My reflection in the mirror began to warp. My eyes looked darker, emptier, almost painted on. I remember the fifth morning. I woke up and couldn't move my fingers. They were stiff, like carved joints. My voice came out hollow, echoing like it came from inside a hollow shell. And behind me, in the mirror, the doll smiled. She wasn't on the bed anymore. She wasn't anywhere in the room. Because she was inside the mirror, standing right behind me, her face where mine should have been. "Now we're the same," she whispered. That night, I ran. I left everything: my house, my phone, my name. I drove for hours until I reached the edge of the forest outside the city. I buried her there, deep in the soil, with trembling hands and bleeding palms. I whispered every prayer I could remember. I told myself she was gone. I moved into a new flat. No one knows me here. I don't talk to people. I avoid mirrors. I keep the lights on all night. But yesterday, I heard it again. Talk, 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 soft, faint, coming from the inside of the wall. I pressed my ear to the plaster. It was quiet for a moment. Then came a small, muffled giggle. The same child's laugh I'd heard in the car that first night. And when I stepped back, there was something carved into the wall. The letters uneven, scratched from the inside. "You can't bury what remembers you." That night, the electricity went out. The flat fell into darkness. And when the emergency light flickered on, there she was, sitting on the table in front of me, her wooden head slowly turning, her eyes painted but somehow alive. But this time, she wasn't alone. Behind her stood the little girl, her face gray and hollow, her mouth stretched into a smile that didn't belong to any living thing. She raised her hand and pointed to my chest. I looked down. My heartbeat had stopped. My skin was pale, cold, and faintly wooden. My fingertips were splitting open, and from within the cracks, thin lines of varnish began to seep. I couldn't scream. My throat made no sound. My jaw locked. My eyes froze open. The last thing I saw before everything went still was the little girl picking up the doll and whispering, almost tenderly, "Now, you'll keep her company forever." Then the darkness swallowed everything. Weeks later, the new tenants moved in. They said the apartment was cheap, though a bit cold. The neighbors mentioned the previous tenant disappeared, leaving all his things behind, except for one, a wooden doll, sitting perfectly still on the kitchen table. When the mother picked it up, she smiled. "It's kind of cute," she said. "Let's keep it for my daughter." And from inside the walls, faint but steady, came the sound again. Talk, 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 talk. The end. Did you enjoy the story? Let us know in the comments. And if you liked it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to The Horror Dream. Want more stories like this? Subscribe to The Horror Dream, and we'll bring you more darkness, just for you. If you enjoy a little chill down your spine, stick around, like, share, and hit that subscribe button, right here on The Horror Dream. Your support keeps us going, so stay with us. Subscribe to The Horror Dream for more spine-tingling tales.